a 5-week series on righteous anger. And today I want to talk to you about what humans are like. Can you say that with me? What humans are like. All right. And I told you, I know, right, I get it, I know. Well, Roderick, I did tell him last week, I said, I'm just a warning, this series, more than any other series, is going to make you mad. And luckily, I only got 2 really mad emails, but they were mad. This, I'm just letting you know, if you didn't come last week, if you're new to this church, normally we don't try to make you mad, but this series is going to make you mad. So just to prove it, here's my first point. We don't understand the human heart. So everybody repeat after me. I don't understand the human heart. Because going back to that passage, it says this. The human heart is the what? Of what? Okay, it doesn't say the human heart is a deceitful thing. It doesn't say the human heart is one of the most deceitful things. It doesn't say the human heart is in the top 25% of of deceitful things. It says it is the what? Most deceitful of all things. I'll back that up in a minute. And it also says that the human heart is desperately what? Okay, I know. Listen, Americans. Yeah, right? We're Americans. And we're like, nuh-uh. You don't understand. My heart's good. And his heart's good. Everybody's hearts is good. And I get it, America. I just don't think you're watching the same news stations that I'm watching, right? And you're like, which news station are you watching? And it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. And he says, the human heart is most deceitful of all things, it's desperately wicked. And then it asks this question, who really knows what? How bad it is? Here's the answer, you do not. That's the answer to that question, right? We don't understand the human heart. We don't. Let me give you some examples. What I'm going to do, I'm just letting you know ahead of time, I'm going to move far away from you, and then I'm going to move close to you. So it's going to get a little more uncomfortable as we go, just letting you know. So I'll start far away. I love murder shows. Judge me if you want to. Jesus will get you. But So when I go to bed every night, I put a little sound in my ears, and it's Dateline. Why Dateline? Because they all talk like this. It's kind of like watching golf. It goes like this. So I can just fall asleep, and I can wake up. It's the same tone. It just helps me sleep. So I watch Dateline all the time. And here's what happens. They find a serial killer. They're like, serial killer. We got a serial killer. And after they find the serial killer, what they always do is they go interview the neighbors. And they get a microphone, and they're like, hey, let's talk about your neighbor, the serial killer. And every time they do that, they're like, I would have never guessed he's a serial killer. He seems like a perfectly nice guy. We had chicken the other day, and I didn't realize that might not be chicken. It is really kind of scary, right? I just added that in there. I should not put that in the second service. Note to self, don't do cannibalism joke in the second service. Who knows about the human heart? Here's the answer. We do not. Okay, a little bit closer. Not to you yet. A little bit closer. I have a friend. They went to a church. The church was an amazing. It was the new hoppin' church in the city. Like the young hip pastor, they were like in the arts district doing all the cool art district stuff, like the super hipster band, like you didn't know what they were wearing and what songs or bongos they're going to be using, right? At their Christmas party, they had beer in kegs at their church Christmas party. I'm like, what is this church? I want to go to this church, right? That sounds amazing. Can we commute all the way back to Memphis to do this, right? One Sunday, the elders get up. Pastor's not there. Elders get up. Say, hey, we want to let you guys know that our pastor Well, he was having an affair. And he was having an affair with his best friend's wife. And they talked to the church members. And the church members were like, I would have never believed a pastor would do that. I mean, he just seemed so nice. He was like a normal guy. No one ever goes up and say, hey, what did you think? It was like, oh yeah, he was totally a fair type of guy. Like, we saw that one. We saw that one coming. You with me? We do not understand the human heart. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit closer. I know I'm stepping on. This one might hurt a couple of you. I apologize ahead of time. How many of us have loved someone or had someone close to us love someone from the very beginning was clearly a chump? Everyone say a chump. Okay, right. You with me? Right. Here's the deal. Like, you knew they were a chump. Their family knew they were a chump. Their friends knew they were chumps. Total strangers that saw them at the mall knew that one was a chump. But that person said, no, he's good for me. I love him, because love is blind. Our hearts, check this out. Our hearts are the most deceptive. Why? Because our hearts don't only fool other people, our hearts fool ourselves. And we believe it every time. So 2 quick fire truths before we move on from this amazing first point. Number 1 is this. We are what? Clueless to other people's motives, but we think we're what? Brilliant. Let me tell you a story. Now I'm back to me. Now I'm just going to pick on myself, okay? So you're safe for now. Best friend in the entire world. Happened 2 months ago. My wife and I, one of our kids was going nuts. If y'all trying to figure out which kid, really just pick one. They're all just kind of doing the same thing, right? But at this particular moment in time, one of our kids was just, and we were low. We were low emotionally. We were just drained. And one of the things was like, we couldn't leave that kid. Like, it's just, they needed us to just stay there with them. And so we texted our friends and we were like, man, we are so low right now. And it's not going well. And we don't know when it's going to go well. We sure wish that we could hang out with you. Send. They wrote us back and they said, we are praying for you. Let us know when they get better, and we'll talk about hanging out. What we had heard in that text was, when you get your stuff together, let us know, and we may decide to be your friend again. What they meant was, I want to give you all the space you need because we love you so much and we don't want to put any pressure on you. My wife and I were so sad and mad and forlorn. Like, we didn't know what to do. We were like, I don't even know which way is up, because these are our people. And our people told us, once you get your stuff together, right? Just backing up a little bit. Once you get your stuff together, we can hang out. And we're like, we didn't know what this friendship was. And then they clarified what their motives were. And we're like, oh, well, that's quite meaningful. Thank you very much for sending us that text, right? Here's the deal. We are clueless to other people's motives, but we think we're brilliant. You don't know what's in other people's hearts. You don't know their backstory. You don't know what's been going on in their work and in their life. You don't know how their brain works. We think we do, but we don't. And because of that, we should abandon our quote unquote right to be angry because we are, quote, so wrong in our judgments. Because with my best friend, I was so wrong in my judgment, and I was so angry until I figured out that I was so wrong. Then I was like, oh, that was a terrible idea. We brought this up last week, but it just so fits this series. There's that time where Jesus was going to Jerusalem. So he was rocking to Jerusalem with his disciples. And they came upon this city in Samaria, and they were tired. And they were like, hey, is there a Holiday Inn where we can stop up in here because we need a little rest? And they were like, hey, you're going to Jerusalem. Little racism going on here. We are not allowing you to stop in our town. And so Jesus is like, come on, boys. And James and John were like, I tell you what, let's get God to send fire from heaven and burn women and children and babies and dogs and cats and all of them alive for not letting us stay in their Holiday Inn. And Jesus is like, you're getting this wrong. Like, this is not what this is about. Here's the deal. One of the most freeing passages I think that we can learn when it comes to righteous anger and judgmentalism is this one. If you get this passage, it can change your life. Let me show it to you. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 4. So Paul is dealing with people in Corinth who are rejecting him. Why? Because he's all up in their business telling them the truth, and they're not wanting him to tell them the truth, so they're getting all upset, right? And it says this. He says, I care very little if I am what? Judged by you or by what? Any human court, right? And we say, as Americans, amen. Hallelujah. You can't judge me because I'm an American. And then he says, indeed, I don't even do what? I don't even judge myself. Now, Americans are like, wait up, hold up. I'm an American. I get to judge anything I want to because I am my own truth. I am my own judge. I am my own creator. I am my own definer. I get to do that. What you talking about, Josh? Well, he gives us the reason. He says, the reason is this. Paul says, my conscience is clear. Listen, I'm following Jesus. I'm doing my best. But it doesn't make me innocent. He says what? It's the Lord who judges me. So he says, I'm not going to let you judge me because you're a terrible judge. And I'm not going to let me judge me because I'm a terrible judge. I'm going to leave the judging up to him. Why? He explains, he says, therefore we're supposed to do what? Judge nothing. Here's your instructions, Grace United. Judge nothing before the appointed time. We're supposed to do what? Wait until the Lord comes back. Why? Because he will bring to light what is what? Hidden in the darkness. And he'll do what? Expose the motives of that heart. And at that point, each person will get their praise. Here's the thing. Only Jesus can expose what's in the darkness. Only Jesus knows what's in each and every one of our hearts. Only Jesus can bring righteous judgment. And so point number one is simply this. We don't understand the human heart. Now watch this amazing transition. Point number two is Jesus understands the human heart. Everyone say it with me. Jesus understands the human heart. All right, this is going to be quick. Listen, Jesus was ministering early in the book of John, right? And he had the crowds, and the crowds were all excited that he was there. And it says, now he was in Jerusalem at the Passover festival. So large crowds were around Jesus. It says, many people saw the signs that he was performing. So he's doing miracles. And they did what? Believe. These are believers. These are Jesus followers. They believed. But Jesus would not do what? He didn't trust himself with them. For he what? He knew people. He said he didn't need any testimony about mankind, for he what? What did he know? What was what? In each person's heart. Jeremiah says that the heart is deceitful, perfectly wicked. Who can know it? The answer is you don't, but Jesus does, right? And because of this thing, here's what he's basically saying. Listen, Jesus didn't trust us. He trusted the Father, and so he served the Father by serving us. You follow that? Because he trusted the Father, he didn't serve us because he trusted us. He served us because he trusted the Father, right? He's still doing miracles. He's still saving. He's still lifting people up, but not because he trusts us. I don't know if you've ever heard, Jesus in the Gospels, this is going to sound like heresy, but follow me here. Jesus in the Gospels always, a lot of times, sounds like a little kid. Because someone will come up to Jesus and they'll say, hey, Jesus, I want you to say these things. And Jesus will say over and over again, I only say what my daddy tells me to say, right? Or they'll say, I want you to go over here. And he'll say, I only go where my daddy tells me to go, right? Or they'll say, I want you to perform this miracle. And he'll say, I only do the things that my dad tells me to do. So I'll go check with him. And then I'll come back and let you know because I trust him and I'll serve you by trusting him, but I'm going to go back to him, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is this. Because Jesus knows our hearts, he's never shocked by our actions. I'll tell you what you won't find in the Gospels, which is great, by the way. What you won't find in the Gospels is a story where Jesus rolled up on a situation. They're like, Jesus, we have a situation. We need you over here. Jesus is like, great, I'm there. Right? And Jesus walks up and he looks and he goes, wow, I did not expect that. That is disgusting. I don't even know what to do with that. Did I create that? How did that happen? I can't even, right? That's never happened in the Gospels. What happens is Jesus rolls up on, give you two examples. Jesus rolls up on Peter. And Peter, he says, Peter, hey, listen, just to let you know, you're going to deny me 3 times. Like it's going to happen. You're going to deny me 3 times. Peter's like, no, I'm not. Jesus like, yes, you are. Peter's like, no, I'm not. Jesus like, yes, you are, right? And then Peter went ahead and did it. And then what happened? At the end, Jesus like, I told you, come back. Let's sit around a campfire. Let me restore you. Or on the other end of the spectrum, y'all remember that time where the lady took the perfume and poured it all over Jesus' feet? And then all the disciples were like all shocked. They're like, what is she doing? This is insane. We should be doing this. And Jesus is like, no. I see the motives of her heart. This is a completely holy thing. Leave her. Stop being so shocked that she's doing what she's doing. What she's doing is a good thing. Right? Because Jesus knows our hearts, he's never shocked by our actions. So, review. Point number 1, we don't know or understand the human heart. Point number 2, Jesus understands the human heart. Since that's the case, point number 3 is simply this. We can react to the human heart the way Jesus did. You following me? Because if we don't understand and he understands, then we can go the way that he goes because he knows the way, right? I just watched the movie The Help this past week. Have any of y'all seen the movie The Help? Okay, listen, it's been around since 2011. If I ruin it for you, this is on you and not on me. It's just you've had 13 years, right? But I want to tell you, so it happens in like the 1960s. Segregation, like deep segregation, Jackson, Mississippi. The whole movie is about, that conflict that happened there. And the preeminent white woman in the town is a lady named Hilly. And Hilly is just so oppressive, so racist, so full of anger. She's always just at her tipping point. She is holding on to what she believed is righteous anger, which we talked about last week, humans don't actually have. And she was holding on to this righteous anger, and she was always about to break. And towards the end of the movie, the black servant, Abilene, Viola Davis, she won the Oscar for this role. She confronts Hillary, and she says the most famous line in the entire movie. She goes up to Hilly, and in quiet and powerful defiance, she says, "Aren't you what? Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of the relentless anger? Aren't you tired of relentlessly battling people in your mind? Aren't you tired of looking down on people? Listen, righteous anger is so exhausting. Grace United, aren't you tired of being angry at the other political party? Aren't you so tired of being enraged at the opposite sex? Aren't you so tired of being angry at the right? Aren't you so tired of being angry at the left? Aren't you so tired of being angry at white people? Aren't you so tired of being angry at black people? Aren't you so tired of being angry at the immigrant? Aren't you so tired of trying to hold on to righteous anger, which was not meant for you anyway? Here's the deal. You don't have to be. You can react to the human heart the way that Jesus did. Two practical ways we can do this. Two practical ways. This is not all the ways, but just two practical ways we can do this. Number one, don't live in perpetual shock over the reality of the human heart. Julie and I were having a conversation about one of our friends that we, this past week, that we heard they live down in Florida, that they did something. And my wife said, "Can you believe that she," and I said, "She's been doing that same thing for 25 years. Yeah, I'm not shocked that she did exactly what she did, because that's what she does, right? Jesus didn't live in perpetual shock. We don't have to live in perpetual shock. Listen, let me ask you a question. Can you believe that politicians would lie when they're trying to get elected? Can you believe? It's not shocking, right? It's not shocking. It's not shocking, okay? Can you believe that men abuse women out of power? Or can you believe that women abuse men out of the hurt that they've had? Of course we can. It's not shocking. Can you believe that global leaders will allow tens to hundreds of thousands of their people to die uselessly because they want a piece of land? Can you believe that? It's not shocking. Can you believe that there was a shooting at Fordyce, that some of our members were literally shot at last week? Of course you can. It's one of a gun shooting that happens every week. Our hearts are desperately wicked and deceitful. We get it. We don't have to live in perpetual shock over the reality of the human heart. Instead, we can shock the world by living out the reality of God's heart. Back to the murder shows. This is my murder show day. You're welcome, or not welcome, depending on your view. There's a way a murder show happens. There's a progression to it. First off, this is the problem, right? What happened? Secondly, they catch the person, normally the guy. Thirdly, the guy goes to jail and goes on trial, gets convicted, and at the very end of it, they have the sentencing. And right before the sentencing, and even if you haven't seen murder shows, you know this happens, what they have is what's known as victim impact statements. In all of these shows, what you'll have is you'll have a family member or a mom or a dad or a cousin, and they'll come in, and the person's already been convicted. They're about to get their sentence, and these people will get to say what they want to say to this person. They get face to face. 95% of the time in these shows, at least that I've watched, 95% of the time, the person gets up there and they are boiling with anger. It has run from their heads to their toes. It's not just anger, it's made them an angry person. They're just a caricature of anger. And they walk in and they look at that person and they say, I hope you suffer and die. I hope you go to hell and you burn forever. I want the worst thing that can happen to you to happen to you. You're the most evil person ever. And they just unleash anger. That's what you expect. But in 5% of the shows, a mom gets up there. A dad gets up there, a brother gets up there and looks at the person and says, you took something from me that's so valuable, but I want to let you know, I forgive you. I forgive you because Jesus forgave me. And I wish the best for you because Jesus wishes the best for me. And I know you might not believe this, and I know you might not understand it, and I'm working on it. It's not easy every day, but I want you to know I love you because Jesus loved me first. You see, self-righteous anger, not shocking at all. Gospel-driven love, completely shocking. You follow me? Okay, Grace United, church, my church, the people that I love. The world will not be shocked if we are self-righteous. The world will not be shocked if we're angry. The world will not be shocked if we judge instead of letting Jesus judge. The world will not be shocked if we live in perpetual shock, clutching our pearls and say, can you believe what's on the news? That's what they expect of us. But Grace United, if they see us loving our enemies, blessing those who persecute us, right? Standing up for the broken, laying down our lives, laying down our money, laying down our times for those who oppress us, the world will stand up and say, where does this come from? Where does the power to do this come from? And as the worship team comes up, I have some good news for you this morning. And the good news is simply this. Jesus doesn't save us because of our hearts. Jesus saves us because of what? His heart. There's a story at the end of the Gospels where Jesus is crucified. They stick him on a cross, right? But he's not the only person there. There's two other criminals, one to his left and one to his right. Both are completely guilty of their crimes. Both completely admit that they should be there. They're not even fighting it. They're like, I should be hanging on a tree. And the guy to his left, one of the thieves, in his self-righteousness, in his anger, in his quote-unquote righteous anger, just absolutely unloads on Jesus, judges Jesus, mocks Jesus. It just spills over. And then the one on the other side, who is equally as guilty, repented, admitted his sin, confessed that Jesus was sinless, and asked forgiveness. And Jesus, on that cross, forgave him, saved him, not because of his heart, but because of his own. The scripture says this, and this is where I'll leave you. 1 John chapter 4 says, this is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. And this is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us. And he sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Listen, Jesus doesn't save us because of our hearts. Jesus saves us because of his. We are the thief on the cross, and today he invites us into his kingdom. If we'll stand up all across the room.